All right, everyone, we're just waiting right now. The professor is en route from London, so the conference has not yet begun. So those of you who are just wondering, did you miss anything? You haven't missed a thing. I'm keeping the audio off until the conference begins. That gives you the ability to walk away from your computer, leave the speakers on. When you hear audio, you know that it's starting up again. So.
Sure enough, he got hung up. So he will be here. He's on his way. And so I'll give you an inkling of what we have today. And I won't give you much more because it's Dr. Coben's information, his research, not mine. Didn't know anything about it until we looked for it and found it. Come on. So the topic, the title of his presentation will be, Did the Common Sense Revolution Reduce the Size of Municipal Government in Ontario? And the statistics that he has elicited from government sources are quite remarkable and I think important. And remembering too that this is a survey that he did of all of the amalgamated areas, and he compared growth and costs in the amalgamated areas with non-amalgamated areas. And so once again, I'm going to just wait for a few minutes. He should be here momentarily because I prefer to have him make the presentation, and then we'll take questions after.
So, Mr. Mayor, what is your office's involvement in this? Is this at all part of a review that your office has done, or is this just solely an academic talk?
Well, I mean, I've been pursuing information on amalgamation ever since my election, and it was stated clearly in my election that we needed to review the effects of the amalgamation. It was only fair to the amalgamated communities, and then of course with a suggestion that there could be more amalgamations, and I know the province of Manitoba, as an example, has announced a number of amalgamations will occur in that province. So to do, as I mentioned in my State of the City, a major top-down imposition of governance from the province and municipalities, and then not seeing how it worked out is, it's reasonable, as I said, to expect to survey, review it, and see what the outcomes were based on the promise. And I think generally speaking, you would say that the promise was revenue neutral. We expected that. So the data
So back to my question, Mr. Mayor, is this a review of your office, or is this just an academic talk from this professor?
This is Professor Coben's review of the provincial amalgamations of 2001. And that, we can extrapolate from that, and I believe he has done some certain specific numbers particular to Hamilton. But I'm going to stop now, Joey. I'm going to let Dr. Coben arrive here and make his presentation. Then we'll do that, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
No. He said he's a few minutes late, so he was a few minutes late when he sent that.
So once again, for everybody waiting at home, we're just waiting for the professor to arrive. He's been stuck in traffic. There was a serious collision on the 401, says Mayor's Chief of Staff Peggy Chapman. The mayor himself says that the professor will solely be presenting his research today. That is not actually the mayor's study. So we are going to have a chance to clarify some further as to how this applies to the mayor's promise to review amalgamation after the presentation during the Q&A. And a shameless PBS style plug: if you have not contributed to my crowdfunding yet, this is a great opportunity while you're waiting to do so. joeycoleman.ca, click the support now and you can do so. Thank you. I'm going to do the PBS. And also the audio will resume when the event starts.
Right.
Well,
Did you ever see there was on the BBC, there was a guy who came for an accounting job and they put him on the air thinking he was a tech expert. And he didn't even realize it until they said, and you're a tech expert, and he just gave the interview.
yeah, he was a cab driver.
Yeah.
They thought he worked for Apple.
Yeah, and he just said some sort of gibberish. He said, It's just some very vague comments.
He's the only vet that does, I just got a consistent with my new witch.
And of course, the second that we get going, the selling. Dad's pretty cool business. Okay, there we go. On that. That says 300 kilobytes a second.
What she'd like and what she wouldn't like. But the people in the stores are just well, it's so cold. The salt is bad, but also it was just so cold that her feet were stinging. Yeah, they were stinging. So, she'd go out, well, yesterday we were young in the snow. She'd go out on the back deck of the snow. After about 3 minutes, I watched it swim. She was trying to get her feet so her feet were cold. Just to pick them up. That's it. I gotta get through the snow. Very sharp. Well, it is. Right. Sharp. It is. You're right. When they put the salt mixture on it, that just burns. So he did a big start barbecue the first day of the house. And he got me big pot of roast and carrots and onions, potatoes and pepper. And put the gravy and the spices in and just put it on the barbecue. Cooked all day. And we had a candlelight gas barbecue or gas, propane, sorry. Anyway, so it just cooked all day and the guys did their bacon and their eggs and whatever. They're all good cooks. Anyway, it was such a good dinner. Here we are in the pitch black with candles going. It was so freezing. Now is that in the basement? I was going to say you got 2 levels.
I've had it where my husband's had that point.
Yeah. So hot.
You don't like it?
It's live.
Just
Yes.
look at them.
Yes, it is. You can make a speech. Go ahead.
Girl, you point the camera.
There you are. Camera's at you, Rob.
Brothers and sisters, here we are again.
It's really live.
Put a little in the
As soon as the professor came in, I thought we were going, so I looked at everything.
And it's just nice. It's just another safe net.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this meeting is to present the material that was prepared by Dr. Timothy Coban from the University of Western Ontario. We've had a long process in trying to get an understanding of the amalgamation, of the outcomes, the review, and originally when I brought that matter up in the election campaign of 2010, I said that tensions remain with regard to the amalgamation, and we have to confront whatever those issues are, and the solutions lie between doing nothing and de-amalgamation, but in that sweep. And so some people got quite concerned about that. And we know that the province of Ontario has stated clearly, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, that restructuring is not on the table. And because there has been a petition from an amalgamated municipality to do just that, and the province's position was stated. You can do all the build-up you want. We will not invest in that. But if you want to make that investment, and it would be quite expensive really to bring that material forward and present it to us, we will consider it. So at the recent Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Minister Jeffrey was meeting, there were about 14 mayors in the office, in the meeting room, and we were asking questions. And I said, I appreciate your clarity on restructuring. That's good. We understand that. But in view of the fact that tensions continue to exist in amalgamated communities, would you consider a review of the effects of amalgamation? And the minister's answer was, well, that's a sneaky way to ask the question, but yes, we would be receptive to reviewing the effects of amalgamation. My search for answers over the past several, it's been about a 2-year process because we were very busy in 2011 project. So toward the end of 2011, I got to meeting with a number of people, including Mark Sproul-Jones from McMaster University, and we did a long, hard examination of what it would take to produce a useful review based on experience. Then we sought assistance from people like the mayor of the day, the chair of the transition board, the outcome. It took me to University of Western Ontario, where I met with Andrew Sankton, who is generally regarded as one of the leading municipal experts, especially the subject of amalgamations. And so we had a very good chat, and it's strange how timing works. He said, well, as a matter of fact, we have just completed such a review. And so I was introduced to Dr. Tim Coban, our guest today, and his team had dug into the statistics, made some comparisons, and presented what I think is a very useful and informative piece of work. After the presentation, there we go.
Okay.
So, do we need the lights down? Or are you
Thanks,
good with
Bob.
that? Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Timothy Coban, University of Western Ontario.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Bob, for the invitation. So I'm here to talk about some of the work we've done at Western on the effects of amalgamation and the consequences. Laptop. So the main is restructuring of municipal government in liberal democratic history. So you cut the size of municipalities by half. And the enunciated goal at the time was to reduce the size of municipal government by reducing overlap and duplication. See, now comes into power. We have this rapid increase. And so we look at some basic data. Right, we see the overall size of the municipal sector in Ontario, 15.8 persons per 1,000 population and employees. Compared to all the other provinces, they have a very large municipal sector. And then by 2010, right, the rapid increase in the size of the municipal sector compared to other provinces. And so in reflecting on the common sense revolution, did it lead to a decrease in municipal government? First, the size of the municipal sector increased rapidly over that period, more than any other province, and it rapidly increased over that 10-year period. And it's not just downloading. So we would think, well, you know, the province downloaded a bunch of responsibilities, but if you compare social services, for example, and you download a responsibility, it only increased by a fairly minor number compared to the previous period. And so, in trying to compare, what you want to do is compare all of the predecessor municipalities. So you look at, you know, Hamilton, Wentworth, all the other municipalities, and then compare them, group their numbers together, and then compare it with a new municipality and see if it in fact decreased municipalities. And so, in our work, we've been focusing on full-time equivalents. And you know, FTEs are probably the best measure of the size of the municipal sector. About half of municipal wages are on FTEs. And once you hire someone, it's pretty tough to get rid of them. So we focused on this. And so we have 445 municipalities, right, since amalgamation. That's the new number. And we got rid of every case where there was an annexation, right, because the boundaries change. And so you can't properly compare the predecessor with the new municipality. And then we got rid of every municipality over 3,000 persons. Because the small ones are tricky to analyze. And so this is your main finding. The main finding is, in municipalities that were restructured compared to unrestructured, unamalgamated ones added 3.25 persons per 1,000 population. Compared to non-restructured municipalities here. So the main conclusion is municipalities that were amalgamated added full-time equivalents at about twice the rate, right? 2 times the rate of unstructured municipalities. So if your municipality wasn't amalgamated, then you added on average 1.77 persons per 1,000. And if you were restructured, like Hamilton, for example, then you added full-time equivalents at twice the rate. Which, you know, for social science is a pretty strong and robust finding.
Are you taking questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so a couple of questions I have for you right now, and I'm going to apologize because I haven't seen your research, so I haven't had an opportunity to do my own research, so I'm asking questions
Sure.
that you probably will find. So firstly, you say that the growth in social services from 3.4 to 7.8 is relatively minor, which is double as a grouping double. And I'm wondering how much of that is related to downloading, because in terms of the amalgamated municipalities, Sudbury, Ottawa, Hamilton, Windsor, there's been a lot of population growth, but they've also overwhelmingly had more downloading of provincial roads, paramedics, public health, and social services than other ones. So how are you balancing that? Is that actually weighed in here? Can I use this as a apples to apples comparison?
Yes, you can. The one weakness here in the data, and I thank you for bringing it up, is if we compare, so we're here, right? So part of the problem is this is provincial data, and so some of these numbers are municipal, other ones, if they're provided by a municipal service manager, whatever the term is, it's not included in that. But the point of bringing this up is to say, well, there was an incredible growth in the municipal sector over this period. And it's not just downloading. It's not even mostly downloading. Right? So if you look at downloading, if you look at social services, ambulance, court, security, it doesn't account for even half of it. Right? The rest is entirely growth within the municipal sector. And that growth is being driven by amalgamated municipalities.
Okay, and if I may just make sure that I report it correctly.
Yeah.
So you're saying less than half can be attributed to downloading. How much can be attributed to population growth?
Well, all these numbers that I've reported here,
10 people?
yeah.
10 less than.
No, I have no idea. I have no idea if Hamilton wasn't amalgamated. Hamilton's a tricky case. It's in every case where you had a regional government amalgamated with lower and upper tiers together, right? You see some really strong findings until 2005, right? So there's really, really strong pressure on employment and growth up to 2005, which is why I use 2010, because by 2010 they trend back down, right? So Hamilton seems to be, comparing to Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Toronto, Ottawa, sort of middle of the pack for regional governments being amalgamated.
Let me try the question another way.
Yeah, sure.
What's the figure for Hamilton? You've got FTE growth and restructuring municipalities at 3.25. What's the figure for Hamilton?
I'd have to pull that up.
So for example, in Hamilton, Flamborough, for example, Highway 8, part of that was downloaded, part of 5 was downloaded, but we're very fortunate 6 and most of 5. But like I'm trying to get a sense of how much is amalgamation
Sure.
and how much is other things.
No,
I don't wanna
that's
throw
the
it-
exact question, right? Trying to figure out what was downloading, what was amalgamation, which is why we use the 300 municipalities as a data set. In the case of Hamilton, I'm trying to remember the data. I wonder if I have it here. Well, the answer is I don't know offhand. I do know from looking at things like fire and public works and police that Hamilton was pretty much middle of the road as far as amalgamation and new restructured municipalities went.
Some of that specific data, something we could grab from you at a later date? Or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll send you the full paper.
It's important to know that Tim's review was of all amalgamated groups, so we didn't ask him to do a Hamilton presentation. This is the information that he gathered from all sectors, and there's some that you could easily pull. And the one that I did see was 22% increase in FTEs over non-amalgamated communities versus as high as 70. But I think for our purposes, this is the beginning, and then we can work through those numbers individually for the city of Hamilton. But the most important thing is that this information, and it's a good question from Mr. Coleman about where the information comes from and so on. Our intention is to give it to the province and have them vet that information. And Minister Jeffrey said to me in a public meeting that they would be willing to consider a review of the material. So we needed to have some material to review, and Dr. Coban's material is what we came up with.
Mr. Mayor, but to what end is the province going to review this? What's the ultimate purpose?
I can't tell you the answer to that. All I can tell you is that there was an openness to accept the notion of reviewing a very prominent top-down imposition of governance. And it would seem fairly obvious that after 10 years of having done this, there must be some result, there must be some numbers that you can
Well, it's the
access.
most sweeping restructuring of local government in liberal democratic history, right? And so, for academic reasons, it's important to know what the consequences were. But for pockets of the province, people are still upset about the new municipalities. So, there's both academic and policy reasons for doing this kind of work. Yes.
Councilor Maria Pearson from Stony Creek, one of the nominated communities. My question is, on this review that you did it incorporate changes with regards to staffing requirements in conjunction with union requirements, provincial requirements that now mandated you had to have the supervisor
right.
for so many
Yeah, sure,
workers
sure.
and all of that, which would not have changed
No.
pre
Well, and water and
pre-amalgamation,
everything
right?
else that came down. That's the entire point of looking at all municipalities, right? So you can, if you look at the wave of downloading, right, it would affect municipalities that were restructured and ones that weren't.
But
right?
did you
And so-
factor those numbers in as you went along to this 22% in Hamilton? Because there still would have been a percentage increase in the pre-amalgamation days with the communities amalgamated.
Well, the short answer is yes. It's included. It's included in the entire data set as well, right? So you're trying to hold account, right, for all the new provincial responsibilities like ambulance and court and water and everything else. And so if you compare it across 300 municipalities, half that were amalgamated, half that weren't, and you get a really, really strong sense of what the effects of downloading were. And we have a couple of theories. One is that if you're making a new municipality and you're the CAO, then you want to hire a bunch of people around you, right, to do the job that otherwise you'd have to do, right? So that accounts for some of the growth in the center. And then another part of the growth has to be amalgamating different collective bargaining units together, right? So you merge together 3 or 4 fire departments, then they're going to typically harmonize to the highest level of wage, right? So the deputy fire chief is going to get the same amount compared to the other one. So it's both harmonization upward and then probably some, for lack of a better term, rent seeking, which occurs at the highest levels in creating a new municipality. So if I was a CAO and I had to make a new municipality, I would say, well, I want someone to do this and I want someone to do that, and I'm going to hire an intergovernmental relations and then a communications specialist, so I don't have to give this talk. Someone else can do that sort of thing. So that's yeah. There we go. So we go from 445, and then we eliminate every case where there's an amalgamation. Sorry. And it's about half of which are amalgamated, about half of which are.
So the mayor this morning made a comparison to Winnipeg as a comparator city.
Sure.
Near the same population size, a little bit more dense. Now, Winnipeg, a lot of services that we provide municipally are provided by the province there. So there will be a bit of difference there. But excluding the downloaded services from Hamilton, if you took the Hamilton services that are provided municipally here, that are also provided municipally in Winnipeg, how much growth difference is there between the two? Because you had earlier mentioned that Ontario has had more municipal growth. I'm going to do a headline.
All right.
What is my headline? What is the headline that is absolutely 100% we know for sure?
Amalgamated municipalities grew at twice the rate in full-time employees.
Because of amalgamation.
Seems to be, yeah.
But I couldn't, so my headline would be amalgamation. It seems to be that amalgamation is causing growth.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, they grew at twice the rate. You can put my name on that, that's fine. All right? I mean, it's a really strong finding in social science of growth, comparing lease. It's almost entirely within central government expenditures.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to understand though is that clearly there was a significant void in regards to seamlessness of our services, what pre-existed amalgamation with regional government, and the findings and the recommendation of full-time services to ensure that no one was left behind.
Right. That's entirely possible, and you see that in many cases where municipalities are amalgamated, where the outlying areas say...
To take this material and with their own internal resources, vet it and make sure that it's right. And so then you have to, you have to try to see, for instance, it's very interesting, the main question is, where did all these people come from? And a lot of it is in administration. You know, and I can tell you that the mayor's office, and I made that comment this morning, it's gone from 9 to 4. And the cost of the mayor's office has gone down by about a third. Because, you know, it was stated at the time by the chair of the transition board that, well, the mayor needs a driver, and then we got all these people, policy analysts and so on, and well, we're gilding the lily project. And so there are other amalgamations that I know in the province of Manitoba, they may find this extremely valuable. The reference that I made to Winnipeg was not about amalgamation though today. It was about the fact that they chose not to have bus rapid transit rather than LRTs.
Your statement is comparable.
It's a capital, so
I was trying to ask a question of the professor to get at outside of Ontario, because his statement earlier was that Ontario had seen greater growth. If I may, Mr. Mayor, what is your goal of this process? Why are we here, and what do you hope to achieve by what we're doing?
What we are here for is to express the impact.
And if
And
I may,
what's the, sorry, Professor, if I may, with the mayor, I'd like to
I'll
ask.
finish. And so, you know, if someone and their taxes go up, right, a couple $100s in a year, then you want to explain to them, was it from, you know, the reassessment of your tax base? Was it from new tax levels, or was it from amalgamation, right? What drove this? So there is an accountability measure that I think is important.
Yes, and I want to get to the mayor though. So what is the goal of this? Is it just an information session and then we're done, or do you take this information and do something with it to change something?
Minister Jeffries said that they would consider, and you can't bring nothing forward, you have to bring something forward, a review of amalgamation.
So your goal is to have the minister review it? Is that what you're saying? Or is your
My goal is to have the province of Ontario review and present to the public amalgamation. The presentation we have today is an academic exercise from a highly regarded and respected organization, the University of Western Ontario, under Andrew Sankton. And when I saw the work, I felt that it was profound and useful. And so here we are today. Now where it goes after today remains to be seen.
Mr. Mayor, back in 2010, you said de-amalgamation is a possible outcome of a review. Do you still believe that?
No, I didn't really say that.
Yes, you did that. You said it in the direct quote.
I know what I said, Andrew. And what
I've got the direct quote, sir.
The survey, a review of amalgamation would, the outcome would be from anywhere from doing nothing to de-amalgamation, right? That was the span of what the response could be. Who knows what that means? It may be some direction to municipalities, or it may be a further investigation of downloading in terms of its fairness. So there's lots of things that the province can do.
Or just telling people why their taxes.
Fair enough. But what I'm asking you directly, is de-amalgamation a dead issue for you or not?
Well, nothing is a dead issue, but it's not an issue. I'm not the mayor of Hamilton to break Hamilton up. I'm the mayor of Hamilton to heal the rifts that divide us. It said it right on my material at that time, and I worked hard to do that. and I've cited on many occasions, at times when council has been divided on issues, with the suburban councillors, and vice versa. So it's not for me to say what will happen or should happen. It's for me to say, let's have an intelligent discussion based on real data.
But you don't want to see the amalgamation at the stage.
What do I want to see or not see? What's the question?
Hear the risks. You no longer want to see the amalgamation occur.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Let's get serious about reviewing the material. That begins with what we've been able to elicit.
Was there any exchange of funds to commission this report? And who's paying for the funds?
Yeah, there's always
So where's dollars coming from to commission this report?
Hamilton.
Secondly, how much?
I'd have to check with my consulting company that I use, but
And thirdly, pre-amalgamation, regional government represented 87% of the services provided to real-time areas. So if I understand, amalgamation was just sort of a natural evolution of the fact that the majority of this major services provided to the city of Hamilton, or sorry, to all those communities, were already being delivered through regional government.
sure, in the case of regional governments where they were amalgamated together, that is a strong finding, right? That in the case of Hamilton or Ottawa, that a few services.
Absorb those infrastructure costs on their own if they were not amalgamated.
Well, sure, right? They could or they couldn't. And I'm agnostic about the findings. I don't know whether this is good or bad that we've hired a whole bunch of municipal employees in amalgamated places compared to unamalgamated ones. Maybe it's good, right? In small townships that now they have a bunch of full-time people who are there, they're working, instead of having one person who's a dog catcher, right, half the day and then picks up garbage the other half the day. Maybe it's good. So I really don't know.
Well, I guess the point I'm making is as the time has a stock, there's been pretty significant growth in some of these communities where they're taking Castor water down.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true in suburban areas. But it's such a strong finding when you compare amalgamated ones to unamalgamated ones, right? So everybody grew over this 15-year period. Everyone hired people, but amalgamated ones hired them at twice the rate over a 15-year period. And in social science, that's a really, really strong finding.
Sorry, Sam.
Well, I was just going to say, just in terms of, you said funding came from Hamilton, from the study.
This project was not funded by Hamilton.
No.
Okay.
What
I
are you
just wanted to
referring to?
clarify.
Sorry, what?
What are you referring to then when you said the money?
Well, there's some costs involved in
Yeah.
bringing
Presentation,
Professor here
speaking,
and
and so
making the
on.
presentation.
Mr. Mayor,
This is paid for by West.
so what's the cost of today's event, and how do you break it down between the speaker and the venue, and why did we choose this venue instead of, say, City Hall?
Well, it's a provincial report. It's not a city report, and it will end up in the hands of the province.
But my question is how much are we spending?
I don't
and why
know.
are we?
I don't have the answer to that, but I will give you that answer when I have it.
So who commissioned the report?
I didn't commission
I didn't
anything.
ask that. I asked who commissioned this report.
No one. This is research by university.
So what was the inertia to do this report? Somehow, somewhere, somebody said we should take a look at amalgamation, how it's working.
No, that's what I do for a living. That's my job. And the mayor had contacted Andy Sankton, who's sort of the dean of social science and local government, and said, "What's
So
don't
good timing.
write that part."
Good timing. Interesting and important data, and an opportunity for the ministry to report back to the citizens of Ontario and the citizens of Hamilton in terms of what happened, how did it work, and all of us can then consider, because we have to look at these numbers, and that's because we are reviewing our staffing, we're going into a budget process. We hear all the time around the council chamber about how many people are working for the city, and you put one FTE up there, and you're going to get a big argument from members of council. So we need to get a handle on it.
Mr. Mayor, speaking of council, I had 3 councillors come to the media room after I tweeted about this news conference saying they had heard nothing about it. I'm told that it was only at 1:30 that the councillors received an email from you, and you just referenced that this is important information for council. So
Well,
2 questions for you. Allow me to have the questions, please, sir. 1, why wasn't council informed ahead of time? And 2, why is this delegation, this is really a delegation, not being done in the council chambers where...
It's not a Hamilton report, Joy. And
But he's an expert that can help guide council. We have experts come all the time in front of council. So my
This
question is why
because
wasn't
that's the
council-
decision that I made, and the issue, that's the decision that I made. Also, the State of the City speech occurred this morning, and it's important that that speech stand on its own, because that's different than this. This is a different, and I had some questions this morning about that, and I said, the reporting of the State of the City speech should deal with the material that's contained in, which is the report of the work of the council, the mayor and council together, on what we've achieved and what we think is going to happen. This is a very kind of a gray area, because we don't know what the reception is going to be from the province, whether it dead ends here or whether real work comes out of it in terms of the province continuing on with the notion of an amalgamation.
Okay, if I may follow up, Mr. Mayor, you said that you made this decision. I'd like to know why you made the decision not to inform the council until 1:30.
Well, I didn't make the decision not to inform the council. All members of council were invited to the State of the City speech, and only some of them came. And so the State of the City speech is quite important and should be of interest to council. But nevertheless, I did, Councillor Whitehead called and asked about that, and I said, it's almost an oversight, but I...
Reading your research in depth, in this contract that you have, does it include any future dates in Hamilton or presentations to council or public meetings?
No.
Can I ask, sorry, as part of the presentation?
Sure.
In your findings, did you look at the benchmarking in regards to what the growth rate was in the pre-amalgamation period versus the growth rate of those communities post-amalgamation? I'm not talking employees now. I'm talking growth rate in regards to the economy, growth rate in regards to development, and so forth.
Can I ask Councillor Whitehead why, when the material is listed against per thousand population, why that makes a difference?
Well, what makes a difference is if you have a stagnation in regards to the growth pre-amalgamation and post-amalgamation, you have significant growth. Then the question is clearly, does the amalgamation contribute to the growth that is
But the
taking
numbers
Sure, well-
compared to no amalgamation.
The basic answer is, did I look at a number of factors that would affect growth? I looked at everything. Right, so we have wages, we have salaries, we have population, we have economic growth, we have building permit data, everything. And so that's how you do it.
But my point is, though, with that growth taking place without the amalgamation versus post-amalgamation, so $1 billion in improvements.
No, the basic question would be, if you had a bunch of municipalities, half amalgamated, half that weren't, right? What happened to those basic questions, right? Population, building permit, economic growth, and so on and so on. And the dominant finding is amalgamated municipalities added employees at twice the rate, and that's it. There's nothing else that accounts for changes over that period.
I wanted to ask you, part of what made amalgamation so painful is that you had a lot of typically small town municipalities being
Sure.
merged with larger urban areas. There was a lot of
Right,
pain in
Hesplers
regards to
and,
that. Pardon me?
Hesplers and
Yeah, or like Dundas
Right,
and
sure.
Merlin. And do you have any sense of, just in terms of winners and like, what has it had a more extreme impact on more small town rural municipalities, or any sense on
Extreme
how
in
they
what
fared?
sense?
Just in terms of
how much they hate the new
well, I mean, yeah,
structure.
that's a given. I mean, in terms of adding employees, any financial impact it's had on those areas. I'm just looking for a kind of general.
Okay. Well, being a bit loose and fast with the data, I think most outlying areas probably benefited. They ended up getting more in services than they paid for in taxes. I think that's probably true for most amalgamated areas. Certainly true for Ottawa. I think it's true for Sudbury. It might be true for Hamilton. And we're waiting on another trove of data, which is coming from public opinion polling. Right? So we're asking people, right, in your Flamborough or in your outlying Ottawa, are you happier? Right? Are services better? Are you getting a good deal? And so on. So we'll have better answers, I think, coming forward. But I think for the most part, suburban and exurban areas and amalgamation probably ended up better off than they think. Right? If you actually look at the data and you look at it closely, right? But they're still aggrieved, right? They're still unhappy. They don't like the new structure.
So you'll have another study then? So
Yeah, of course, and that's what we do.
So to the question I think that Councillor Whitehead was asking, I just wanted to go back to. He said non-amalgamated communities, did they grow as fast a pace as amalgamated ones then? Because I think that's the differentiation we're trying to see. There's got to be a reflection to how much growth we've seen in Hamilton with amalgamation, because some of these things would not have gone forward without amalgamation.
Oh, well, I mean, if you think about it, if you think about amalgamated places, think of Thunder Bay, Sudbury, even outlying Ottawa areas, right there. The rate of growth, population growth, is not any higher in amalgamated areas than it is in unamalgamated.
But it's not just population growth, it's infrastructure.
Well, you can measure it any way you want, but
it's everything, services, exactly.
But that's why you look at 300 municipalities, right? And so you can take into account population growth, economic growth, business
So that's
growth.
all reflected in whatever we'll get as a package that
Yeah.
you can see? Okay, because I'll speak as far as Stony Creek. And I've said it to many. I'll say right now, pre-amalgamation, we had a great community, no doubt about it. We had efficiencies and everything else. There were services that we did not provide for ourselves. We had to purchase from the region. So we were controlled at that level. But I can say without a doubt, in my own ward now, I've had growth of infrastructure upgrades that I would never. So
Outside, there's two.
Generally provided by in this report, and also ran into some obstacles from people who had internal knowledge of the process but who did not want to come forward. So what do? And so I go to the leading expert on municipal affairs, which is the University of Western Ontario, and Dr. Sankton, and then we have our report. So no promise will be kept until the province reviews amalgamation. So data, and that has to be vetted by the province, and maybe some strategies to see if there's a way to mitigate some of the issues that were created. Because remember, if the increase in FTEs was 22%, let's just use that number. The amalgamated people tend to chip in to pay for that.
You know, I understand all that, but the question is, do you see this as fulfilling your promise, your commitment?
Well, the file has never gone away. It's lengthy. I can take you back to mid to late 2011, and I will not be relieved of the mission until something profound happens with regard to the province. So I'm still working on it.
Do you feel that if you could go back to 2010, would you make the same promise
Absolutely.
in the same way?
Absolutely.
Fully aware that it's the province, as you're saying.
That's what I said all along, that the province should review what happened. And for whatever reason, there's reluctance, and I don't know why, because it's governments away that did that, and there's no issue for this government to come forward with an honest response to the matter. And certainly, even from an academic point of view, this is important stuff. And when this stuff is published, it's going to be read.
Is this going to be part of your 2014 platform?
I'm not saying anything about platforms. I'm not a candidate right now. I'm the mayor of the city of Hamilton. When the time comes, if I do become a candidate, I'd be happy to answer that question. But right now, I am the mayor of Hamilton, and I'm dealing with issues that relate to our population.
It's a question I understand. Are we saying that amalgamation doesn't work? We should put the toothpaste back in the tube and go back to a deamalgamated situation? I need to know what to tell my residents what the findings are.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. How to summarize it? Amalgamation costs, right? That's the strongest finding. Is we've added twice the number of employees in amalgamated municipalities compared to amalgamated. That's good. Maybe they're getting their streets cleared more frequently. They're getting the garbage picked up. I don't know. I can't answer that. So if you want to respond to a constituent, I would say, well, amalgamated municipalities have added employees at twice the rate. And then you have to decide if that's good or fair value.
So did you look at the benchmarking exercise from
Yes,
the province?
of course.
Looked at the levels of services amalgamated cities provide?
Yeah, the data's not very useful, but yes, I've looked at it.
And you're suggesting then that, what I'm hearing now is that there could be different levels of service that justifies a higher level of service that may justify the additional employees in the amalgamated city.
No, I'm saying that amalgamated municipalities added employees at twice the rate. I don't know if those employees are very effective or efficient, or they're doing a good job, or they're performing better services. I don't know. And nothing in the data will tell me that.
Mr. Mayor, how do we get this to council if we're not bringing are we bringing this report to council at some stage? Or
Well, the report will be made available. I'm not bringing a report to council.
how do we get it to the minister?
Or not?
That you can begin.
So you are
And
asking.
that may even direct them to say, you know what, there's not much here, or they can say, you know what, we really need to dig into this. So
And,
I don't know how they're going to react to it.
And the province has supplied half the data.
So Mr. Mayor has to head for a review of amalgamation. I'm trying to figure out exactly what's occurring here because
No, the mayor of Hamilton has discovered some remarkable information that relates to Hamilton, but is provincial in its scope. And so the mayor of Hamilton is going to, well, they already have it, is standing beside watching this process take place in hopes that a good result will come back for Hamilton. And there may be a time when the province wishes to bring a report, or council can make some consideration about it. But what we're dealing with here is pure information, and it's accessible to the public and council, should they wish to do anything about it, or if
So
they
what
don't.
has been your exact communication to the ministry? What have you said to the minister or the ministry?
Would you consider a review of amalgamation?
And is that in writing on the letterhead of the office of the mayor of Hamilton?
Mr. Mayor, what would you consider a good result coming back from the province?
A serious response. And that means in terms of, well, we should do that, and we might get around to it someday. I'd like to hear it.
But facts.
Yeah.
Doctor, if I may,
Yes.
because you're an expert in this area, who would you say are your peers? So if I wanted to call up 3 or 4 professors and try to get a sense of what the consensus is within, sort of go for a second opinion if I
Sure,
may.
right, if you want to...
Who else are the...
Well, Andrew Stanton is the top in the field.
Yeah.
Bob Young,
And where's he at?
he's at Western too. We're
Okay.
all of us at Western. Myself, Martin Horak, he's a director of the local government program. You can try Neil Bradford at Huron. You can try Mark Sproul Jones before he hung it up. It was pretty good.
Well, we try to, that's an interesting point, because there is sitting dormant at McMaster University, the Victor K. Kopp's Chair of Urban Studies, I think. And I had a talk with McMaster about, can we, recreate that, get it active again, and you know, the budgetary constraints, it costs a lot, and I don't think council would, at my request, approve, you know, $200,000 a year to do that. So I was left Spruill Jones about that, and we had a good discussion of what it would take to reactivate that, to get it going again. So all of the good expertise.
You go to Congress every year, I would assume.
Yeah, of course.
And at the Congress, who are the people you want to hear speak on these topics?
Mostly my colleagues at Western. Well, I gave this paper. I gave it at the Canadian Public Administration Annual Conference in August in Montreal. So who else is good?
Let's say you have a snowstorm.
Emmanuel René-Joly, who's at UVic, very good.
Okay.
Who else?
Anyway,
Yeah,
let's get.
I can give you.
Richard, do you have a question?
Quick question, Professor. You mentioned that you've done this quantitative research. It's fantastic. And on top of it, you're going to do some more qualitative research.
The entire province.
And so what you want to do is pair the two pieces of research together so we have a fuller picture.
Well, I want to find out, right? In places where they hired more employees, where taxes went up, expenditures went up, did they get better services? Are they happy? It's a basic question on quality. Right? It's hard to do this kind of work if you don't know what happened on services, right? So you hire twice as many people.
Right.
But
The sense that the larger city probably had a more powerful influence on a good outcome for the residents than had they been there alone, or maybe with another amalgamated group. It's hard to say, but it's really important if we attempt to heal the rifts that divide us, is to find that out and find out that, you know what, our services have gotten better. That's the exercise isn't to find a bad guy, it's to find the correct path.
Dr. Coben, just if I can, I'm just going back to the beginning of your presentation and a couple of points that you hit. You keep saying that right at the beginning. You mentioned, I mean, we hit on the fact that you say it's 2 times employment growth, FTEs, 2 times since amalgamation. But you said that Hamilton is an anomaly, that we only had a 22% increase.
no, Hamilton's sort of middle of the pack. So I can pull out the data, but it's not. I mean, there are some municipalities that added an incredible amount.
But we didn't have the 2 times as other maybe communities.
I have to pull the data to answer your question.
Okay, but leaving this room today, I mean, I want to feel comfortable in knowing that our staff that we've done, we have made efficiencies. We've had growth, but there have been efficiencies in how we've done the growth. And by what you're saying is 22%, it looks like that's there, but you're still questioning that.
Yeah, well, I'd have to look at the data more closely. If you had to have a cutaway, I would say Hamilton added, like all amalgamated municipalities did, but not at the rapacious rate that some municipalities did.
Thank you, appreciate that. And you also said, though, that if we weren't amalgamated, possibly we would have had 10 less full-time. Now, were you being facetious on that? Because you were questioning. I'm going back to it because, I mean, these are little numbers that are sticking here, and I think it's important to go forward.
Yeah, well, I can't answer the question if you weren't amalgamated. You are.
Yeah.
So that's...
Just something to that. So the look at the city of Hamilton, and again, I'm looking at the ONB because that's the benchmark that the province puts out there.
It's really bad data.
Well, but that's the tool that's the only tool we have to look at.
Well, no, there's other data available.
So the point I'm making,
you use it.
the question I want to ask is, this community of our size, council steady on every service we provide, and consistently our staff have come back and said that we're in the middle of the pack in regards to the staffing levels and even delivery of all those services. So I'm now trying to reconcile how we are in the middle of the pack, and that's amalgamated cities, or non-amalgamated cities, we're in the middle of the pack, which means to me that we're at the norm relative to all levels of services we provide. And yet I'm hearing that we got a 22% increase in staffing as a result of amalgamation. I'm trying to reconcile those 2 issues.
Is there a question in there?
Well, the question is how to reconcile the fact that we're being told that all the services we provide, we're in the middle of the pack with all our competitors in the province of Ontario, And I'm hearing that we have a doubling of staffing since amalgamation.
Because that is middle of the pack, is doubling.
Okay, so basically we're providing, so even a pre-amalgamated city, a non-amalgamated city, we took a look at their staffing levels relative to the service they provide, and look at our staffing levels relative to the service we provide, they equate.
Sorry, there's a question in there.
Well, I'm asking if they equate.
Do they equate?
Are they, is there parity, is there equity?
I'm still not sure of the question. Is Hamilton middle of the pack on services, population, everything else? Yeah, basically. And that's true post-amalgamation.
Okay, we're,
One might, I mean, I'm sure it's not a very big cost, but I'm just wondering how we might find out how much it costs to have it spent.
how much what costs?
How much it
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And I'll just finish by saying that there were 14 mayors sitting around the AMO table when I put that question to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and other mayors responded with the same kind of curiosity. So what happens from here remains to be seen, but I do want to thank